So, welcome to our second event of 2022, and thank you very much to Nikki for organising this event and for her guests, Judith, June, Steph, who are also going to talk about the challenges such as the 30 days, 30 works. And I have, by the way, put in the chat just a little reminder that we've got our own challenge of a different sort, the open call for the back of an envelope. I've put a link to the Instagram post about it. So if you want to take part, do get involved. And I'm going to hand over to you now, Nikki.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm just going to share my screen. Maybe. Oh, am I sharing it now? Is that okay?
You are allowed to share. I've enabled it, so.
Oh, let's try again. Not looking great at the moment. I didn't have that before.
Oh, Katie Oxborough started sharing.
Right, let's have another go. Is that there?
No, hang on. Katie seems to be sharing her screen. Katie?
Sorry, I clicked it thinking that's what I had to do in order to see it. Have I pressed something I shouldn't have done?
Yes, can you stop sharing, Katie, please?
Oh gosh, hold on. I don't know how to do that.
I think you just need to click it again, but.
Can you see this recording? Stop, oh, stop share. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry.
Right, so I'll try again. Let's just see if I can get.
Yeah, that may have been it.
Are we there now? No? Is that there or not? No.
No.
Sorry, everyone. I've had a bit of a nightmare with my computer this last week. I'm just going to go back to Zoom. I don't know what this funny thing is that's come up. Oh, I don't want to do that.
Do you want me to pull up your slideshow that I've got, Nikki?
I think we might do that, Kat.
Let me
open. Plan B.
Plan B, belt and braces. Let me just pull it up and then we'll see if I can do it. Are we there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to have to tell me when you want me to.
Okay, the first 4 slides, I'll just tell you, and then it does go on to automatic after that, so we should be all right.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, thank you all for coming. So I wanted to talk to you this evening about time-based creative challenges to make work and ultimately to discuss. Oh, it shouldn't be, Kat, it's not doing the right thing, sorry. Are you pressing the button on it, or is it? Okay, try again. To make work and ultimately to discuss if the effort of doing these is a distraction or develops your practice. While I talk about the format of some of the challenges I personally know about, I'm going to be showing and sharing outcomes or artworks from 3 that I've taken part in over the past 2 years. Within this, I'm going to share my personal approach. Could you change the slide, please? Mm-hmm. While I talk about the format of some of the challenges, I'm going to hand over after that to Steph, then June and Judith to share their experiences. And Oh goodness. And then we will discuss our thoughts on whether it's developed our practice or not, followed by any questions from you all. It would be preferable if you don't interrupt speakers, but put your thoughts or questions into the online chat, and we'll go back to these at the end. Thank you. So firstly, what are these challenges? This evening, we will be talking about 3 specific ones, but for ease of explaining the concept, I thought I'd share with you this one, which is running on Instagram this month, called Februarage. It's a voluntary to take part, although some of these challenges that we take part in do have a small admin fee. And this one gives you the prompts up front for the whole month, and you make work in response to them. They provide them in many languages. For this one, the person taking part shares them on their Instagram and uses a specific hashtag set up for the event. Favourites are shared by the team running the event, and in this case, that's the Edinburgh Collage Collective and the Scandinavian Collage Museum. For this challenge, it's up to you whether you decide to take part every day. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. They should move out on their own now, Kat.
Okay.
So on to the challenges I've personally taken part in and what the rules are. While I'm talking about them and their format, I'm going to be showing the 30 works I made in April 21 as part of the 30 Works in 30 Days challenge, a few highlights from the same challenge in 2020, followed by artworks made in response to poetry prompts in July 21. 30 Works, 30 Days is a challenge that has been running since 2015 and is run by an organisation called the 12O Collective, a group of artists. Participants are required to submit a new piece of work a day for the month of April. The artist has to sign up to the challenge in advance and share their creations on the 30 Works, 30 Days website before midnight each day. Each morning, the 12O Collective send through an email with a word or phrase prompt for you to respond to if you so choose. The project is open to everyone and any medium is encouraged. If you fail to submit something on one of the days, you are out of the project. The 12O Collective set the challenge up to encourage making and experimentation, testing what you think you know about your practice. With the restriction of one day, they feel you may find the choices you make, the corners you cut, and those ideas that you couldn't quite realise are just as telling as the work that you do actually produce. 30 Works has a live feed that shows everyone's work every day throughout April. Each day, different artists from the collective make a selection of the day's work, which is then posted onto their Instagram. You can still see the daily artist selections by looking at Instagram on @12O Collective or by searching the hashtag 30 Works 30 Days. In 2021, 582 people participated from 30 countries around the world. Over the project, 11,292 works were submitted on their website. For my own approach, both years I've taken part, I've chosen to ignore the daily word prompts and develop ideas around a specific project that had either started or I'd been thinking about. In 2021, I specifically chose to develop more ideas around an ongoing project called the Absent Archive that looks at ideas about infertility. And in 2021, I started to develop ideas for a new project called Mothering Mother that involves research into dementia, terminal neurological illness, and the role of family carers. Both projects took place in lockdowns. By the time of the 2021 challenge, I was very restricted on having any time available to create, so I set myself some additional rules. In an attempt to make creating the daily work slightly easier, I use that word loosely, to achieve and not to set myself up for failure. These were to use only existing materials in my studio and to work to the same size, a 13 centimetre square. Throughout the month, I used old prints, etchings, screen prints, collagraphs, an archive of vintage photographs, inks, threads, words from vintage books, and glue, lots and lots of glue. And in fact, I had to break my rule of only existing materials and buy more glue, as this ran out partway through the month. Gradually, as the month went on, I started using one of my vintage typewriters, my sewing machine, and fragments of artworks of my mother's, as at the time, just to add to this challenge, I became knee-deep in her house clearance. In addition to the rules, given lockdown, my lack of time for creativity, overload with Zoom chats and video calls, I chose specifically last year not to work in digital. I needed the physical act of drawing, collaging, stitching to process a deeper need. It also meant I could confine myself to my studio and shut the door. Again, another rule that suited me at the time. In 2020, I'd actually chosen to do the opposite. I did start with collage, which I find to be loose and playful, to explore ideas. And then I chose to use the time to force myself to develop and improve my Photoshop skills and learn how to animate my works. These are shown towards the end of my slides. At the same time as creating, I was also continuing to inform my work with research. Primarily, this meant tapping into online resources, reading medical articles about neurological disease and the complexities of a rare form of dementia. On days 9, 11, and 15, for example, sorry, I'm just checking the slide's going to move. Yeah, on 9, 11, and 15, I was exploring ideas about the brain, and on other days I did make some ink drawings and monoprints of the brain, but ultimately these got torn or cut up and became works for a different day. My 13 centimetre squares, all actually good quality paper of various sorts, came from the edges of old prints. My tendency just to keep anything just in case became an exciting sweetie box to choose from. Some days, if things went smoothly, I prepared a few more blank squares and continued to rip or cut out texts that were resonating with my thoughts at the time, in the hope that they might just become something relevant for another day. At the end of each day, I documented my thoughts about each piece in a journal, used this as the basis of my daily Instagram feed, and also to meet the rules of the 30-day project, loaded the work onto their website. As I mentioned before, if you don't do this, the challenge works on a one drop of the ball and you're out basis, meaning you're not sent the daily prompts and you're no longer able to load works onto their portal. I have to be honest and say that while I managed this in 2020, in April 21, partway through the challenge, I somehow forgot to load my work one evening. I had updated my journal, my Instagram feed, but not their website. I only realised the next day when I didn't get the email. Effectively, the challenge was over. However, although this was slightly frustrating, I realised that this wasn't actually important for me, and the journey I was on, being back in the studio, creating every day, had reignited my mojo and filled me with adrenaline and ideas and a need to carry on creating. That adage of the more time you give to something, the more you want to do it. So I just carried on with one less daily process of having to load the works onto the 30 days portal. I carried on making work for the full 30 days and more. Some days in 2020, I just videoed work I was starting. These small drawings that I'd started during the challenge went on to become a 4-metre drawing about infertility, inspired by a vintage book and some love letters from the 30s and 40s. What I've learned during the 2020 challenge was firstly how to animate my drawings a little. I'm not sure though if I can remember how to do it now, but also I think that small things can evolve into something greater, to not be put off from creating because I'm so rationed on free time. While month-long challenges can feel a bit of a commitment, less so I would say during both lockdowns, as it gave a focus to each day, I have found it just as rewarding to take part in shorter challenges. Beth Kempton, an author, writer and Japanologist, regularly runs tiny poem challenges via her Instagram feed. The rule to spend a maximum of 10 minutes, no editing, to produce a poem inspired by the 1 word a day prompt that appears on her Instagram feed each morning. These are often, I think, related to nature, seasons, such as Tiny Winter Poem. I have to say that with these rules, I sometimes saw the word first thing in the morning and then developed the poem later in the day. What I've realised is with this challenge is that you need to get out of them something that helps you. I love being tested creatively by rules, but I also enjoy adding my own and breaking them. When the challenge has ended, it's just you and your practice and the output of whatever challenge you've taken part in. Whilst Beth Kempton sometimes shares other people's poems via her Instagram feed on her stories, they don't actually remain. And for 30 Works, 30 Days, the website is removed a few weeks after the event. During the poetry prompts last year, as well as creating poetry from either found texts, random words jotted in my notebook, or straight from the heart, I chose also to develop these into miniature artworks, using the same formula I had used in the 30-day challenge earlier in the year. Usually I managed to create these on the same day, but some came a few days later. Again, this is me adding my own rules, taking as much as I can from the process. Kat, I don't know if you can just press play on that previous slide. Just near the image, there should be a play button. Maybe not. That's it, just at the bottom on the black section. There should be a bit of sound with this, but this was the last piece I made, and this is still the same format, it's still the same size, but it's obviously made into a concertina book. Thank you. And the last slide, please. Thank you. That's everything I wanted to say. And I am now going to hand over to Steph, who's going to talk about what she's done during the 30 Works process.
Thanks, Nikki. I hope my screen shares. Now, can you see my screen? It says you can.
Yes.
How's that? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. On May the 1st, 2007, Mike Winkleman, aka Beeple, published online a new artwork. He continued to do this every day for 13 years. His work focuses on society's alternating obsession with and fear of technology. You can see all these works on his Instagram feed, Beeple Crap. This is his collage that you can see now called Everydays, and it's made up of the first 5,000 days of his project. On the 12th of March 2021, he sold the copyright of the digital collage for $69 million. So daily uploading of images certainly is the zeitgeist. The first time I did the 30-day 30 Works chat project, I didn't take it very seriously, and I treated it in a kind of cavalier manner, and not surprisingly, I didn't get anything out of it. I can't even remember what I put up there. It was a transient experience, quickly forgotten, with no lasting outcomes. The second time I was invited to do the 30 days 30 Works exercise, I was very ambivalent about doing it. But at about the same time, I'd begun to draw on my iPad, and Ray and I were planning to work together on a new animation. And he suggested that I do it entirely using iPad drawings. For him, it was a more efficient way of working. It didn't involve scanning and resizing images. I was very resistant. I didn't like the quality of the image, the graphic zing of the marks. I missed the tactile touch of charcoal. I wasn't au fait with the software package, Procreate, which is the one we use. And although I'm kind of aware of the potential it held, I had no real grasp of the tools and how to use them. So I decided I was going to hijack this 30 days, 30 works exercise and get to grips with Procreate, with a view to maybe doing an animation this way. I decided to watch an online tutorial every day and upload the results of that tutorial. So this means that the drawings that I made were not ones I was particularly proud of, so it was quite hard to upload them sometimes. I don't intend to go through every image, but I will show you a few, and then the second half of my talk, I want to show you some of the useful tools that I've discovered during the exercise, using the images that I made for the exercise. Early in the process, I was very reluctant to let go of my paper and pen. I still imported drawings from paper and ink, scanned them and imported them into the iPad, where I used the drawing package Procreate and was able to enhance them, to change the colours or break them down using my pencil. Again, still day 9, I'm still importing drawings done on paper, this one with ink. But this time I've imported it into Procreate. I've coloured it in Procreate very loosely, and I've learned how to animate in that software package. Much later on, I've got used to doing drawing on my iPad, and this is entirely drawn on the iPad. And it shows you that I'm really getting to grips with drawing on it and animating it as well. So no paper, no ink involved at all in this one. Now this slide shows quite a lot of the images that I drew during the project, but they've all been collaged onto one landscape. So this is quite a lot of days, but all uploaded onto one sort of freeze background, if you like. And now I want to talk to you about the tools that I use very frequently. There's a graphic tool that I really like. This is very graphic-y. It defines whatever you draw. So if you draw a big wobbly circle and you hold your pen on the screen for 30 seconds, it tightens your circle up and does an exact circle for you. If you do a wobbly line and you just hold your pen on the iPad, it straightens that line. And it works the same for squares and triangles and curves. That's a really useful tool. This is another one that's really handy. It's quite hard to show you on the image itself, but this is where you use a reference tool. And while I was doing the 30 days challenge, I would actually write on some of them what I'd use, because I would forget, and it reminded me which one I'd use. This was a really handy one. It's called the reference tool, and it allows you to look at a photograph while you're drawing. So this shell was drawn on the iPad, and I've made you a little video so you can see how this tool works. This is my iPad, this is my pen, my iPen, and this is for Blue Monkey, so I put that there so you could see it. This is the reference tool, where you've got a photograph that you can use on a little screen inside your drawing, and you can zoom in on that little screen onto a particular area and draw from that. So that's a really handy tool. That little screen with the photograph on disappears when you finish the work. This is a fun tool. This is one I uploaded on day 8, and this is a tool that allows you to design your own brush. So I designed this kind of caterpillar brush that makes little circles in a line, just like a caterpillar. And again, I've done a little video so you can see this working. So this is how the brush works. You can make those nice shapes with it. You can change the opacity and the size of the brush. And you can, here I'm changing the opacity, making it slightly denser. This tool's quite good fun. This is how to create a palette very quickly. So on the right of the screen, there's a little landscape that I downloaded from the internet. And then by clicking on a button in Procreate, you can download all the colours from that landscape into a palette. And again, I've made you a little video. This is to show, I want to fill this square with the colours of an elephant. So I'm using elephant greys. So if you watch the top right hand screen, you'll see me create the palette. So I go into my photographs, create a new palette, go into my photographs, choose that picture of the elephant, and there it says palette from image, and those are the greys from the elephant. And then I'm actually drawing with my finger on this square, so you can see that I can just fill that square with the colours of the elephant, which I've downloaded onto the palette. And this is time-lapse drawing. I think quite a few people use this time-lapse drawing technique to use for their website, to show their work on the website. And David Hockney uses this, I think, in his work. So here, this is me drawing a tomato plant. I got my iPad up the wrong way to start with, and you can see the drawing develop. I start to use the line straightening tool and the ellipse tool to help me. Download some photographs and stick those in the back, collage those in, and that's the time-lapse drawing. So that's quite a handy tool. So to recap, I started by working on paper and scanning into Procreate, but gradually I made work entirely created in Procreate. We are now in the process of making an animation with or entirely out of iPad drawings, which is getting close to being finished. I'd be really interested to find out if anyone else uses iPad for their artwork and what they think its place is in contemporary art today. We all know that Hockney, of course, uses iPad drawings very successfully, using them on great big screens for his exhibitions, but selling editioned prints like the one you can see here, which sold for just over 20 grand. So I've had difficulty finding anyone else that uses iPad drawings in a kind of contemporary art way. If anyone else does, I'd be really interested to know about them. I've looked as well at digital art, which I suppose it comes into the category of, and there are lots of practitioners who are using digital art. And one I found while I was thinking about it for this talk is a guy called Matt Kane. And I would really recommend that you look at it. His work is astonishing. There's a link there in my PowerPoint to his work. And there's some work called Gazers, where he's working with ideas about the moon. And it is mind-blowing. And like Beeple Crap and Matt Kane, these guys are selling their work through NFTs, not the National Film Theatre, but non-fungible tokens. And this is the way that digital art seems to be sold. A lot of it is very graphic-y, manga type stuff, but as I think Cliff's knows a bit more about it than me, so I hope to pick his brains on it. That's the end of my talk.
Thank you very much, Steph. That's really great. Really, really interesting.
I've got to stop sharing now.
Thank you. And we're now going to go over to June to share her journey.
Okay, let's see if I can share, literally. Because I was doing a 100-day project, I'm just going to get the slideshow running and talk over it, and it does get through the 100 in 10 minutes, so it should be okay. Right, can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Right. Okay. Off we go. Right. Okay. That's the first one. Okay. Well, as lockdown continued into 2021, January 2021, like many artists, I was struggling to keep focused on my art making. And I was also feeling the usual frustrations with what I suppose I consider to be my main work. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I happened across one which described the imminent launch of the 2021 100-day project. This was an idea that took its cue from an exercise created by pentagram designer in New York, Michael Beirut, to kickstart his own day before he got on with his design briefs. So he He then used this with a graphic design student group, and then it was picked up by 2 women who started this worldwide website and project. So he responded over his morning coffee to a photograph in the New York Times, and would then do a quick response to that in some way. He had one student, for example, who decided to video himself doing a dance in a different location in New York every day and upload it. And he went so viral that he was eventually was being invited to big festivals to perform. And then there was another girl, for example, who photographed herself with a wooden chair with 100 different configurations, which is quite a challenge and very performative. So the idea was very simple, is to choose any creative project, doesn't have to be visual arts, but you have to be able to upload some sort of image. Do it for about 5 to 10 minutes every day for 100 days, and share the process digitally in some ways, mainly to make sure you don't skip a day. Nobody is organizing you. It's entirely up to you what you do. There's no external moderation or group uploading, but you can join in various groups through the 100-Day Project website, I think, or Facebook groups. I just use the hashtag and followed and liked some artists who were also taking part. And I uploaded to Instagram story every day. I was already part of a weekly art crit group, and I didn't feel the need for anything other than an informal engagement with my project. I'm just going to stop for a minute because there's sound on this one, so you can hear it. Nearly there. So it took a lot of deliberation, but I chose to keep it simple and draw simply a different circle every day. And every 10 days or so, I posted a group of circles, a group of 10. I had to use any materials to hand in my studio, in the house generally, or the garden. The aim was to accept what happened, even if I might not have particularly liked the end result. Some circles took a couple of seconds, like a wet circle on a chalkboard. Some a bit longer, combining artworks I already had available in some form. And some I carried on with half an hour or more. As I continued, I felt a small sense of achievement every day, and the process fed indirectly into my other work, which was generally on a much larger scale. Most of these works are between A4 and slightly bigger than A3. So I was doing quite big, expressive works alongside, collaborating with my dance artist daughter over Zoom, and doing projections and sculptures and things like that. I saw it as fun, really, rather than a body of work, although it does make quite an interesting body of work generally, I suppose, and it's fun to look at. I enjoyed the titles that went with it. I enjoyed the interaction on Instagram with people who started following it, and were quite excited by whatever circle I was posting that day. And it was meant to be fun and a way of just kickstarting my day, because I tend to procrastinate a lot and faff around and overthink what I'm doing. So this was really good. And I haven't always carried that process into my other work, but occasionally I have to remind myself that you can just crack on. Now, did it affect my practice generally? As I said, I had a small sense of achievement every day, no matter what else I did. Sometimes I wasn't doing work of my own, I had other commitments, so I always tried to do something by midday. It gave me a sense of self-discipline, but without pressure. because as I said, it was meant to be fun, and I wasn't to worry about it too much. I didn't have to overthink. Would I do it again? I probably wouldn't do it, this particular one again, although I would recommend giving it a go. It has opened me up to trying other rule-based processes, whether external or self-imposed. I do find it easy to main focus once I've embarked on a particular body of work and really got into it. But I tend to do lots of different types of work and find it difficult to bring myself back to one thing. When I've hit a brick wall, I don't necessarily welcome all those sorts of exhortations you get to sort of just play, just take this prompt, don't worry about it, because that doesn't really work for me. And it doesn't help me get out of a creative block or feeling a bit low. But this one did, because as I said, it was quite fun. And I was seeing circles everywhere. It wasn't always a good thing, but I know they are everywhere. But other people then started seeing circles everywhere and sending me things, but that wasn't quite the idea. I had to do it myself. And it is helpful to have a simple set of rules to follow, perhaps even more so if I've chosen my own prompts and my own time constraints. But I'm aware that I've created this strange body of work, some of which looks like my work. I don't know, maybe some people who know my work will recognize it as such, but I haven't created a body of work like Nikki did, or as Judith will go on to tell you about. But it was fun. So if I've got a few more minutes, it will run to the end. How are we doing for time, Kat?
I think we're fine. If everyone's happy, we'll just watch them through to the end.
Yeah, just through to the end. You can read the stories. Most of them exist as real drawings or pieces. Some of them obviously were ephemeral and just exist as a photograph or a video. That's from my tumble dryer. That's a lava lamp. Make it go a bit further. Some of them quite ad hoc drawings. Spider Martin Creed. That didn't take long. Part of my wax pouring, which I was doing a lot of at that time. I think I was stretching canvases that day. I was obviously cooking. And that's it.
Wonderful, thank you. It was lovely. Very playful.
Yes, it wasn't very serious, but
Thank you. So our final speaker is Judith, who is going to, in fact, Kat's going to share the screen. We've given up on me. Luckily, we have a contingency for that. So we're going to look at Judith's work now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Nikki and Kat. So the reason Kat's sharing screen for me is because my computer can't really cope with sharing screen. And sometimes it can't even really quite cope with being on Zoom at all. So if it looks like it's struggling, I might switch my video off because you will have something else to look at anyway, hopefully. And that sometimes helps. And hopefully I won't just disappear altogether, but keep your fingers crossed anyway. How are we doing, Kat?
Is it showing up okay?
Well, it's showing something, but not actually my presentation.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you have you actually opened the presentation?
Yeah, no, I'm
Okay.
seeing it. I'm seeing it.
Okay.
Hang on, I will go back to the folder. What are you seeing?
Nothing now.
Sorry about all these technical difficulties, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to open it up. Okay.
So what I'm seeing at the moment then, Kat, is your menu where you've just clicked on my presentation.
Yes.
On your computer, have you got another window that actually where my presentation's playing through? That
I think, have I found it now?
That's
Yeah.
it. Off we go. Perfect.
Sorry.
That's all right. So my project was the 30 works, 30 days, the same as Nikki. And for me, it was really crucial to decide what I wanted from the project and to set my own rules. Do you think it's playing through automatically, Kat? Maybe not. Maybe you're going to have to click on the next slide for me.
Okay.
Okay. And what I wanted to do was to make sure that I enhanced and added to my focus and not distract from what I'm doing. So for quite a long time now, I've been trying to really sort of focus in on what I'm interested in and the projects that I'm working on. You can just click on every sort of 30 seconds or something if you like, Kat, which is
okay.
what it's supposed to do anyway. Just click as you feel like. So I'll just talk generally about it. So I just wanted to, enhance and add to my focus, not distract from what I was really interested in doing. And if anything, to narrow down my choices, because I find it's too easy to move on very quickly when you find something interesting and to just keep sort of flitting around when, I think we're all the same. We've all got so many things that we're interested in, so many things we want to experiment with and play with. So this was me being very disciplined. So the very tight rules that I made for myself, apart from the ones that are part of the 30 Works and 30 Days project anyway, were that I would use a fixed size of paper every day, 25 by 25 centimetres, use only a black fine tipped ink pen on white paper, and only use a looped line. It's a bit of a random one, I know, but it's just something that was part of, it's quite an instinctive thing that I've always done, is to draw with this looped line, and I've always tried to not do it because it felt kind of, I don't know, a bit derivative and a bit too easy somehow. But people keep telling me that just because it's easy doesn't mean it's bad. So I decided to go with it and just do the whole looped line thing totally to excess. For me, a big thing about it was maintaining this kind of continuity, that every day I was going to learn from the drawing that I'd done the previous day, and not rush on too soon. Just keep seeing what happened if I kept doing the same thing, and focus on the small things that were happening in the drawings. And then if something interesting was happening, like this bulge, for example, which I found quite exciting, to actually keep going back to it and keep trying to refine it and see how far I could push it and what it could become. Some days, nothing interesting happened, and some days I wanted to think about what.
Judith, I don't know whether you can hear me, but I think you might have to block your video because you're going a bit weird on the sound.
We lost Judith's sound.
We might have lost Judith now.
Oh no.
Looks like she's frozen.
Can't believe we're having so many technical issues.
No, I'm so sorry, everyone. We've even done a big rehearsal as well, and it all went really well. So it's. I think I'm going to blame it on the weather. I think it must be.
It's still so fascinating. Don't worry, it's still amazing to see what you've all done.
Thank you.
Judith, nip down the road and speak from mine if she wants.
Quick, go and get her.
Yes, she could even come here. I don't know if she's.
I've sent her a message to tell her to go to Clive's house.
Oh, have you? She has, as she said before, she does get laptop issues, unfortunately. It's which is why we took her video so that we could do it. Shall I scroll through Judith's images while we see if she's running down the road to either Clive's or mine?
Yeah, let's keep going with the images.
You you put anything on the chat box, Kat?
I'm scrolling and doing the screen sharing at the moment. If someone would like to put something in the chat box, that would be great.
I will.
I wrote, "We've lost you, Judith. Nip to Clive's house."
I think,
Quite exciting to see where she might appear.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, she's back.
yeah, I think I'm back. Okay, I'm going to stop my video then, so because that should help a little bit. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to go backwards on the slides?
No, just keep going. It's fine.
Okay.
So shall I just carry on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't actually know where I dropped out, but how about if I go back to where I was learning from one drawing to the next? Does that sound?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So the point was that I was trying to learn from each day what I was doing from one day to the next, not rush on too soon, and allow to take advantage of the opportunity to focus on small things that were happening and explore them more fully. Kat, I think just are you sort of flicking through the images for me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you just keep doing that, and if we get to the end, will you start at the beginning again?
Sure. Perfect.
Fantastic. Okay. So one of the things that I found was a really interesting thing was the sort of bulges that started appearing in the drawings. And so I went back to that on several occasions to kind of try and refine and push them as far as I could go, really, and see what would happen with them. But other days when not much seemed to be happening, I took the opportunity to just kind of go back to those very basic lines of loop drawings and just sort of review and refocus, and maybe to make a plan for the next day. And then quite late on during the 30 days, this kind of thing that you're looking at the moment happens, where I sort of had got a little bit stuck, a bit bored with what I was doing, and decided to shake it all up a bit and completely change the loop line into this totally sort of still actually using the same physical motion to produce this loopiness, but letting it become totally random and quite chaotic. But then also I found the need to introduce another sort of structure to it to keep that balance between chaos and order, and so I introduced the grid as well. So just to talk a little bit about my approach to the whole project, in contrast really with June's, where June's was kind of very time set. The idea was that she shouldn't spend too long on it. It was 5 to 10 minutes every day. For me, a lot of the project was actually about setting aside this time as a daily practice and treating it almost like if I was doing a residency somewhere, that actually for a whole month, that's all I was going to do. My total focus was on making these new works, one every day, and finding it really useful to commit to that, crossing out the time in the diary, putting it out of office, email that wasn't
I think we are going to have to stop that going on.
I've sent Judith a message, but I'm not sure if she can hear us or see us because her sound's...
Are we able to mute her for now, Kat, so that we haven't got that noise playing in my hearing aid? Sorry.
Sorry, I'll try and find... Where is she?
Hi, have you lost me again?
Yes.
Yeah, your sound went absolutely, it was worse than the BBC on the Today programme.
Okay, well, why don't we finish there and I can always answer questions.
Yeah. Thank you. And it was quite lovely. We have seen all the slides, and hopefully everyone realises that Judith approached it with a very strict regime of it being the residency for the month, and she put the whole month aside as opposed to a few hours in the studio. So okay, so we've all shared what we've done, and really we're happy to talk a bit more, but I thought what we would do is hand over to questions. I haven't looked in the chat to see if there are any specifically, but perhaps if you could, Kat, you might have to remind me how to do it, but you can flag a little hand up either on Zoom or physically, and then we'll get you to talk, because we don't want everyone talking at once, because we then can't hear anything. Me particularly, I can't hear anything. So thank you.
Angela, you've got your hand up. Ask a question.
I just wondered about this sort of the difference between feeling free and just doing something every day and enjoying that with no pressure, compared to then showing them. So it feels like some people didn't want to show. It wasn't about showing them at all. But I know, for example, June, in the end, like June's, although you said it wasn't a piece of work, you did show it as a piece of work, which got, really great feedback for you, which was great. Now, I wonder how, whereas Nikki, I don't know if you've shown all yours together. Because when you say things like they were all exactly the same size, piece of paper, it kind of makes me think, well, that would be amazing to see how they would look together. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe that, takes away the fun and the spontaneity of it. I don't know.
I'll go first, anyway, but I think for me, I did show a very quick picture, but I took that during the process of a load of them together. It's not all 30, but there seem to be maybe about 20 that do look like a body of work. And, it's not just coincidence, because I was obviously kept using the same materials, but there are some which I think are absolutely crap and I really wouldn't want to show them, and I don't feel they're part of the project. But for me, probably more so than when I did it in 2020, the ones I did last year, they do feel like a body of work, and I do want to show them as a body of work, but just not at the moment. So yeah, I suppose, but then like Judith, because I had these strict rules about size and the fact they were all, two-dimensional paper pieces, they all do sort of look quite good together because they're the same size. I suppose that kind of brings it together, really. But yeah, they were never, apart from putting them onto their website and putting them onto Instagram, which isn't the same as putting them onto what I feel is my portfolio of work, I didn't really want to show them to everybody, but anyway, they've all been shown now. So yeah, what about anybody else? Like Steph, for example, you didn't really want to show yours, did you? Because you didn't make them like that.
No, mine were simply learning exercises, so I didn't want to show them. So doing that talk was quite difficult, because I thought I don't want people to see these really, because they're not, they're just learning things. but I did get a huge amount out of it. In retrospect, I have to say, after I'd done it, I thought, I don't know why I did that, but apart from learning the package, but I've just used it so much ever since. I've been doing loads of work on the iPad, but the drawings themselves that I did then weren't, as far as I'm concerned, were not were not to be shown anywhere. So for me, it was just simply learning.
Yeah, for me, it was just getting myself off my butt in the morning, really, to do something rather than faffing around, which is easy for me to do. And obviously, the only connection between all the pieces is the circle. I didn't restrict the size particularly. So it's, as Angela said, I did show it as a piece when we all had when the new artist had an exhibition last year, but and people did quite like watching the video of the circles going and reading the title, so it's quite fun in that respect. So and maybe because I didn't feel too pressured about it, I quite liked it. Some I don't, some of the pieces I don't particularly like, others I do like as separate works of art. But I think in terms of developing my practice, I think it's a great idea the way Judith and Nikki reflected on a piece every day and it took them forward the next day, whereas mine didn't work like that. Or that idea of having, giving yourself a residency for 30 days on a challenge is a really good idea. So I might nick that one as well. But as I said, mine was just something to sort of get going in the morning, really, particularly by the time we got to the January lockdown, when we were all a bit fed up and you couldn't see family. I couldn't get into Wales to see my elderly parents, of which there's only one now. So it was another way of sort of saying, right, stop feeling low, get going. And as I said, at the same time, I was also part of a crit group and doing work once a week and other big pieces. So maybe that little stimulus did enable me to get on with the rest of my work. So I did produce quite a lot during lockdown in the end, aside from these circles.
Hi, just to say I can talk now because it's actually screen sharing that totally knackers my computer. So now that we're not screen sharing, I think I'm probably okay. And just to say about the body of work thing, that I have continued with that whole series ever since the 30 Works, 30 Days, and have gone back to them and kind of refined the ones that I didn't really like and created a new series of 30 drawings, some of which include the originals, but some of which are kind of derived from the originals. So to make a body of work that I'm actually happy to show. So they've all actually just come back from the framers and are going to go in a show, but it's not necessarily all of the original 30 drawings that I made during that time.
But Judith, did you start, when you started 30 Days, did you think I am making a body of work, or did you think I am learning about this process of drawing continuous lines, continuous circles?
Well, kind of both really, because I was sort of felt confident that by the time I got through 30 days of this kind of really disciplined, sort of focused work, that there would be a body of work at the end of it. So yeah, both in a way.
Judy, did you want to say something? I think you're on, it might be muted.
I'm muted, sorry. Yeah, I just, it's not a question actually, I'm really jumping in with my experience of it. Because I did 30-30 first time last year, and I had been struggling, and still am actually, with my work generally. And I started off just thinking, oh, well, it'll be good because I'll just be working every day and, something will come out of it. And actually that just didn't work to go at it like that, which fortunately I realised after about 3 days. So actually then decided to focus entirely on something that I had already researched, so I had quite a lot of reference for it, and just to work with that. And that was really helpful. There was a sort of halfway point where I just kind of ran out of steam and did Portrait of the Cat instead, to just kind of keep one going up there. But I found it really helpful in terms of confidence. and just feeling feeling that things were going right in that way, you know, that you can just work like that and really put your mind to it. Because quite honestly, since college, I suppose, really, when do you ever have every day to do a bit of work, you know? So it was really, even if you only spent quite a short time, we spent all day on the piece, it was just really going back to that very continuous practice was really helpful.
Yeah, I agree with that, Judy, and I think what you say is absolutely right as well. You know, that you just have to find the thing that works for you as well, don't you? And it's different for everybody. And perhaps that's one of the most important things to recognise, actually, is that, you know, I think especially with the 30 works, 30 days thing, there's so many things that were kind of optional about it.
Yeah.
That you know, that it was just it's maybe doing it more than once and sort of being able to clarify what it is that's going to work for you, and then just doing it like you did, Nikki. Actually, you know, when so you didn't, you know, your thing didn't get uploaded at the right time, but you knew that it was working for you, so you just kept going.
Yeah, and it was that, you know, what Juna said, it was the kick up the arse, really, because I kept thinking I haven't got time to do any of this stuff, but it actually turned out I had got time, and it didn't matter whether it was half an hour or 6 hours or 8 hours, you know, it just depended each day. And it was really, that was really, really rewarding, I have to say. And I also agree, Judy, about this bit where you're not necessarily even in the middle, where you suddenly just flag and you just don't know what to do. You're just like on a complete, like the whole thing seems a load of rubbish and you've got no ideas. And then all of a sudden you're on another roll again. And it's just, I think it's just accepting that. And I think, like Judy said, having done it twice now, the first year, I definitely got something out of it and it was fun. And I did collaborate with another artist. And one of the other things they do, which we didn't really mention, is there are some optional things you can take part in. And you don't always get selected because obviously there are so many people taking part, but I did put my name down for a crit group, and I had a crit group and got a crit on a piece of work, which I have made into another piece of work. And that, you know, that was really rewarding. But you know, next time around, I think it definitely, I know when we were talking last week, the four of us, is that last year, I think, like, you know, up until about the 28th of March, I was adamant I wasn't going to do it. And then, so I don't know what happened, I suddenly thought, no, I'm going to give it a go. No, I am going to do it, and cut up bits of paper and then went in the studio. And I think it's a very positive thing, definitely, even though it's a slog.
I must say, one thing I also found out about it was I felt the prompts were absolutely useless to me. So I did get help from looking at your work and Judith's and Steph's. Didn't know about June at that time. And just sort of seeing that you had, obviously, I didn't understand Steph's at first because they were all so different. And then I realised she's actually doing process rather than image. So then that made sense. And I think to be able to follow a path like that, try and keep yourself fairly blinkered. And there's absolutely no way I could do something as rigorous as Judith's work, because I'm sloppy, basically. But, you know, it's kind of, it's just impressive to see, and it gives you a thread, an idea about how to keep it together for that amount of time.
Right, we're kind of running out of time, but Cliff's had his little hand up for ages up there in the corner, so...
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that hand.
That's okay.
Live, yeah.
Fire away, Cliff.
Fire away. First of all, I want to say I thought all of the work was wonderful. And I've got to admit, a part of that is I do run so many projects with rules. It's so much part of the process of how I work, and I tend to have multiples. And regarding whether it's a body of work or not, one of the rules I have is that I don't think about it like that way. I have a process, I follow the rules that time. And even at the point when I've finished, I'll put it to one side. I'll go back later and go, is there anything in there worth looking at? But it needs to be later once I've got that distance from it. And the other thing, if people kind of like that quick approach and online, there's a group called dada.nyc, which are worth having a look at. You draw on the screen. It's a very simplistic drawing tool. But if you have a look at what some of the artists from all over the world on it, and you can dip in and dip out, but you see that they managed to achieve some amazing things with very simple digital drawing tools, and also some very simple things as well. I'll drop it in, but if you're interested in that kind of pattern, well worth having a look at. I'm going to stop at that point, principally because if I go on, I'll go on forever.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cliff.
Thank you.
I think Clive had his hand up earlier on.
Oh, did he? Sorry, Clive.
That's okay. No, I just wanted to say from an audience point of view, look at it, seeing those loops of all of that work going on and seeing it develop is really fascinating. Seeing the processes involved, even I think June, you were saying that yours weren't intentionally done as a body of work, but you could. But sitting watching it, I could just see connections and things. And I thought it's really fascinating to see stuff presented in that way, and you don't very often, I guess, or at least I don't. You might.
And if you do take part in something like that, and then you are forced to show it to somebody, and I put it in that slideshow, does that have that effect on yourself as well? Because you suddenly think, oh, I can see connections. It's a good idea of Cliff to say that, go through it again and look at the works that you might develop further. Whereas I've tended to it was a year ago now, and I've sort of put them all away. But that is a good idea to go back, and especially if you're stuck again, just look back at some of the things you liked and that you might want to develop, or as you say, ask somebody else if they see the connections other than the obvious ones.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like Judith, I've carried on with the same formula since then, so that's nearly a year now, isn't it? So nothing's intentional, but that just seems to have worked doing that.
So do we know if it's happening? We don't know if it's happening this year, do we? The 30 days one?
No, but I think it is, because it's it's been going for quite a few years now, and right. it worked very well in lockdown, because I can't quite remember the fee, but I think you had to pay either £5 or £10 to take part, I think. And then because of lockdown, they had some funding from ArtQuest, I think it was. And so we all got a little refund. But I mean, I don't know. I can't remember paying anything last year, whether we did or not. But, I mean, to me, that didn't really matter. It seemed worth it for a £5 to get my act together, really. It was that easy. It's that easy normally to get in the studio.
Yeah.
Judith's got a hand up.
I just wanted to ask Clive whether he thinks there might be a musical equivalent.
Oh,
wondered that.
Do you know, that's been going through my head throughout watching this, because what you guys have is the ability to show something and then move it on to another and another. And, if I was doing something, nobody wants to sit through listening to 2 minutes and then another 2 minutes and then another 2 minutes. It all gone to make a cup of coffee. So I'm not sure it kind of works. I think the discipline of doing something every day definitely works, but I quite often work like that anyway when I'm involved in something. Working on the thing that I will be doing with Steph shortly, that I've just kind of started. Once it gets to a stage that I've got enough to really get involved in, I shall probably be head down in that and forget to eat until somebody says, come and get something. But that's so that discipline, I think, is good, but I can't see a musical way of doing that otherwise.
Clive, can I just ask, when you start something, how much of it is in your head kind of right away? Because obviously you must develop it and change it as well.
Yeah, I don't know. That depends entirely. Very occasionally, I've got the whole thing, and I've just sat and I've listened, and then it's just a case of mapping it out. But more often than not, it's a developmental, almost like an improvisatory thing. But instead of improvising, immediately you're actually improvising in slow motion over a long period of time.
Okay, we've got one more question from Sarah, and then I think we might have to say it's dinner time. What do you reckon?
Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Right, it is not a question. It was just interesting, Judith, your connection to music, because there's a textile artist called Yetta Clover who went through a whole phase of doing a daily practice of each morning and at breakfast decorating a postcard with collage. And she actually got the idea because her husband was a musician and he practiced his music and his scales every day. And she thought it would be useful as a tool to help her develop creatively, that she actually stole that idea from a musician. It was just making that connection.
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right, because musicians do practice, particularly performers practice constantly, and so yeah, there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Can I just sort of say thank you to everybody?
Yeah, thanks.
For the presentation. It's been a brilliant evening, I think, really helpful.
Well,
Yes, superb. Thank you very much, and thank you for organising, Nikki, and thank you to all our guests and all of you, and sorry about our technical difficulties. We did our best, but there you go. Practice.
Yeah, but you got through it, Kat. That's the thing. It was always going to happen. So now it's done and gone, and you can carry on.
And a lot of the technical difficulties aren't anything to do with us being incompetent. They're to do with the internet. So we shouldn't beat ourselves up.
I know. Maybe we'll record the practice as well next time, and then we can just go, well, we'll just play that, and then we probably won't be able to hear it anyway. So
good idea.
That's a good idea.
Anyway, very lovely to see you all. Hope you enjoyed, and see you again soon.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.